Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 45 of Stepping Wild. Tibs sipped his ale, enjoying the stare and Cinta's glare. I thought, she said, that the point was to not be noticed by the master's people. He smiled. If we're careful, we won't. Charlie looked uncomfortable. With her. The master's got his eyes on everything. He's not going to take us doing this well, and I don't mean dragging me into an alley for a beating this time. He made a stabbing motion. It's going to be one of those when we aren't looking. He looked at Uzuma. The archer drummed his fingers on the table, thinking, is this about getting back at the master for something? No. I'm just not going to let anyone tell me what I can and can't do, especially if the way I have to get their approval involves handing over part of what I steal. I listen to reasons why I shouldn't carry through with my plan, but because I say so or only if you pay me off aren't arguments I'm accepting. If my target wasn't staying here for a while, I'd have moved on with her. But this is the situation I have to work with, and I'm not letting her get away with what she did any longer. And what exactly did they do? Cynthia asked. That doesn't matter to you. Not what does is deciding if you're in or not. I'm not saying this will be easy. It's a noble we're going after. But we pull this off correctly, and each of you will have enough coins to get away from the master and live the kind of lives you've dreamed of. That had them pensive. You said us. He shrugged. I'm not doing this for the money. I'll take what I need to move on and get started elsewhere. Uzuma was first. So long as I don't find out this is to stab the master in the back, I'm in. I want out of this place. I won't be leaving. Charlie said, this is my home, but money will make things easier. Tibs looked at Cinta. You? I need more details. I'm not against a risky job, but I'm not joining something I don't think can be pulled off. He nodded. How do you want it done? They stared at him. Her, suspiciously, the other two in surprise. Isn't it your play? Your plan. Your plan? My plan is to make her pay for what she did. I do that by taking what nobles like her care about the most, their money. If I thought I could do that on my own, I'd have already done it. But I don't want just what I can carry with me. I want them to lose everything. That means a team, and that means people who know the stuff I don't. He motioned to them. I don't make plans that take time to execute. I case the place, get in, get what I want, and leave. That's why you're here, Cinta. You know how to think far ahead, anticipate what might happen. You, Charlie, know the kind of thugs anyone hires. Probably fought some of them in those arranged fights, or when you started one out of boredom. I never grinned. Tibs grinned at him. And you, Uzoma, know the city, its streets and its roof. You can get us where we need to go with alternatives for when things go wrong. I'd rather they don't go wrong, the archer replied. Don't we all? Tibs looked them over. But I've pulled off enough of these to know something always goes wrong. So you all have to keep that in mind. He returned his gaze to her. So Cinta, what do we need for this to be doable? Knowing the target is a good place to start. He shook his head. She's been tipped off too often and slipped away before I could get my revenge. She's a noble. She brought a lot of money with her when she got here, and she hates parting with it. It's going to have to be enough for you to work out how to get almost all done. Once we're close enough to ready that she won't have the time to gather her money and run, I'll tell you who they are. If that means we need to make changes, we do that. How long has she been here? Not too long. She didn't press for more, so it was vague enough he'd be able to find one of the nobles that fit. With all the money they had, nobles had the luxury to move about. So not so much there was a lot of shifting in the city's noble population, but enough he'd be able to find a noble that fit what he needed. She put her elbows on the table and rested her chin on her laced fingers. You aren't going after just a noble, are you? That's a high noble. Uh, One you chased here. He shrugged. Ah, it's easy then, Charlie said. We dress pretty and get ourselves invited to one of the parties they're always throwing. She shook her head, not looking away from Tibs. She might not know who all the city's nobles are, but those attending the party will. Can we go in as servants? Uzuma offered. Any of you ever work for a noble? She asked. Charlie snorted and Uzuma shook his head. Tibbs waited a handful of heartbeats, then shook his. And we don't have the kind of skill needed to get one of them to Irason. One of them to hire us. I nobles don't get servants off the streets. They pay good money to get properly trained ones. We want in on that party, Charlie suggested as one of Polly suggested as one of the attendees. But the father looked confused. You said they're going to know we aren't one of them. She smiled. Then we don't claim to be. We present ourselves as visitors. We're here for a few days, maybe while the caravan we are traveling with does its business. When it leaves, so do we. Even low nobles travel with an entourage, Tip said. As we will. As we will have them. As will we. As will we. They'll be staying in their temporary lodging. She smiled at Tibbs. We, of course, don't go anywhere without our personal guards. She motioned to the other two. I don't know if I can play noble, he offered as a protest, uncomfortable with the way she looked at him. I'll do it, Charlie hurried to offer. She shook her head. You have the look of a guard. All Thibault needs is a well-trimmed beard and the right clothing and a good-looking woman at his side, and everyone will see a noble son traveling away from his family to establish himself. To do that, he needs to spend time among the nobles of a city, get to know them, see if this is where he wants to settle. I thought he was moving on with when the caravan left, Azuma said, puzzled. The plan's changing, she smiled. Now, he only leaves if the city noble can't convince him to stay. The usher shrugged. Nobles in the city have more than two guards when they walk around the city. I'm sure Charlie knows someone who can add to our group, she said. 3 guards will be... No! They looked at him. This is the team. Cinta's right, Charlie said. I know someone we can trust with. I said no. She studied him, and he stared back. 5 would be better, she said. 3 guards will be acceptable for the couple we pretend to. We tell them one of them died keeping us safe, he countered, having to work at keeping his tone even. The team is the 4 of us. If you can't work with that, I'll find a different one. I'm good, Charlie rushed. Uzuma smirked. I don't care. I'm just a lookout playing at being guard in this plan. Can you make this work? He asked her. It's a needless complication, she replied. Anything that gets the mark to ask questions is a spot where things can go wrong, but yes, I can make it work. What do we need to be traveling nobles? Tibbs asked. And the smile she covered up made him realize he put himself in the role of the noble after protesting he couldn't do it. And she hadn't said anything to change his mind. He'd be annoyed, but it was why he'd picked her. The right kind of clothing to start with. Noble clothing isn't going to be cheap, Charlie pointed out. She smiled. We can't buy them. We aren't locals, remember? We need to arrive dressed in the garb of where we are from. And where are you from? Uzuma asked. Depends on what languages Thibault can speak. I can pull off a good Persettian, he said in his native tongue. After so many years without speaking, it felt like he had an accent. He was confident he could lose that with some practice. Mine is bad, she said, and he winced at the mangling of so few words. She said something, and he shook his head. 2 more times she spoke, and he didn't understand. Hopefully, Kedi, Kadalisaran is one you know. This works better if we're both from the same kingdom. Accents can be explained as being from different regions. Kadalisar has multiple languages. His chest tightened as speaking the language brought Karina's memory forth. He'd learned it to honor her, especially if it's a city near one of the borders. Or Daltelmar, which has a dungeon. You can find someone there who speaks just about any language you want. Is that where you're from? The chuckle died as he remembered the pyre, the cleric's purifying Karina's body back to the elements. I traveled there. That kingdom is far, she considered something, but we can make use of it. It can explain why our two guards only speaks Forsterian. She looked at them and asked in that local language. So do do either of you speak Kedalisaran? If that was what you two were speaking, Charlie said, it's a no for me. Uzuma shook his head, never set foot outside the walls. She closed her eyes. Leaving from Kadalisar, Bortomir is the only choice to come in this direction. From there, the main caravan routes go three directions, but two reconnect and come into the kingdom from Arthuron, which is too close to explain the guards. We need to go through Ertomathio. From there, Zizkama and Furton. That puts us on the far side of Forsterim. It would be a year of traveling in the kingdom, enough time to explain how we picked up the language. Oh, wait, Charlie said before Tibs could comment. Why so much traveling? Can't you just be from whatever the other city is? Barry can, she said. It's too close, only 3 months travel. And Thibault would need to become completely fluent. It also wouldn't explain why we're down to two local guards. Okay, then why the caravans? The fighter asked. The nobles use the platforms to go where they want. She stared at him, so surprised as Tib was. I hadn't expected you to think of that when I forgot about it. Charlie shrugged. It's right there. He pointed in the wrong direction. Transportation platforms are expensive, Tibbs offered. But you two are nobles, Rosima countered. And the platforms remove that danger. Remove the danger. She returned her chin to her laced finger. How do we reframe the story? The silent stretch. Thibault is the son of a noble, but one that's not well thought of by his family. He isn't traveling just to establish his name, but to get away from theirs. He's doing this without their permission, which limits how much money he can leave with, as well as the size of his retinue. The further a platform takes you, the more expensive it is. Like all nobles, he doesn't want to part with his money unless he has no alternatives. She smiled. And that's why we traveled by land. It also explained why we're dressed in the clothing of this kingdom. Tibbs asked, we'd have to buy them to replace what gets worn out. She shook her head. As visiting noble, we want to be noticed. We don't want to be just some other nobles. We want to proclaim where we're from. We would have a set of our best Kadalisarian clothing just to make our entrances. Tibbs raised an eyebrow. That means we can't be from Daltamar. That city is all about purity on account of their dungeon. Everything's in whites and grays. I doubt it even has nobles, since they only believe in hard work there. We definitely aren't from there, she smiled. We are going to be bright and flamboyant. How expensive will it be to buy clothing that will pass as coming from there? We aren't buying them. We are going to have that made. I know a seamster who can make us what we need. How expensive will that be? She shrugged. However it costs to get him the materials he'll need. Like jewels. Uzuma said, nobles love to cover themselves in those. Do you have a way to explain why we don't have that many? Tibbs asked. The master is going to pay attention to any of those that go missing. I wouldn't worry about that, she said, smiling. But as a son without his family's favor, you'll have to have parted with many of them as part of your traveling expenses. So whatever I'll have will be significant to me, either in their cuts or because of their history. She nodded. You know a jeweler, he said. There had been no light when she said not to worry. She isn't a jeweler, but we bring her the material and she can set a jewel into anything and make it into the centerpiece of what you'll wear. When I entered the city, he said, looking for a way to get what he needed for his research as part of the job. I was questioned. I saw papers being handed over. What do nobles go through? She nodded. We need papers of travels. No matter how unhappy with us they are, at least one of your parents will have written a letter of introduction. If we can include letters of recommendations from nobles we've met while traveling, that will help. But we can't have too many. The more names we show up to the nobles in the city, we showed the nobles in the city, the higher the chances are one of them will recognize it and ask questions we can't answer. Why not just make all of them up? Not not the nobles within Forsterim. To be credible, those names have to be recognized, but they'll need to be nobles we have enough information on we can give the right answers. I can supply names for when I was in Kadalisar. Tibs offered. It was years ago, but the families will be around. I have names from this kingdom. Do you have names from this kingdom we'll be able to use? She nodded. I know a merchant who traveled most of his life. He'll have all the names we need. We can create more from far kingdoms if we decide we don't have enough. Who do you have to write the letters? He asked. She shook her head. My scribe is how the master took notice of me. He sold me out for the money. Tibs looked at Uzuma, who shook his head. Charlie looked pensive. I might have someone, the fighter said, and Cinta didn't hide her disbelief. He's the brother of a fighter who got in on the bad side of the master, like I did. He arranged for her to be beaten bad, so he hates the man. If we coax what we're doing as something to hurt the master, I can probably convince him to help. He's a scribe at the Commerce Office. He won't have the access to the kind of paper referrals letters are written on, Cinta said. She looked at Tibs. But I know where to get those. Does that cover everything? He asked. She nodded. Not the money we're going to need to pay for all of that, Uzuma said. None of that can be cheap. Tip smiled. Money's easy. You tell me who has it, that you want to lose it, and I make it happen. And that concludes chapter 45 of Stepping Wild. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is up for free on Royal Road. If you want to read ahead of that and support me in the process, it's about a dozen chapters ahead on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.